What is up everyone, it's your boy IV here with another episode of our Nightmare series. In today's episode, we'll be traveling east to visit the Nightmare dungeons in Fraction Peaks. Again, just an FYI, this is not a tier list and my goal here is to provide my honest opinion in hopes that I can help you get a better understanding of what to expect from each of these Nightmare dungeons. And keep in mind that all my findings were tested as a barbarian in tier 51 through 60 dungeons. Similar to the previous episodes, we'll be covering these dungeons using a 5-star rating system. Mob density is based on the overall size of the mobs and how compact these groups are within one another. Mob count scales with the size of the map so that a smaller map can have a 5-star rating even though a larger map can have a higher number of mobs. Map size will range from 1 star being the smallest to 5-star being the largest. Power level rating is based on the time it took to clear every single monster in the dungeon as well as completing all objectives, events included. And glyph level rating is based on the time it took to complete the dungeon. Some of the icons you'll see in the next few slides are shown below. The orange objective icon shows either the turn-in location from pickups or midpoint events such as activating the 2 pillars, killing a mini, or destroying a structure before going into the part 2 of the dungeon. The red highlighted area covers the portion of the map with the objectives of slaying all enemies. We're starting off today with Black Asylum. You encounter mainly ghost and skeleton type enemies. The mob count for this dungeon is above average, but the density is terrible. In this large sized dungeon, expect to run into small groups of ghosts that will spread out and run away from their initial locations. With everything this map has to offer, I gave this 1 star for both power level rating as well as the glyph leveling rating, and would recommend you to stay away from this dungeon as much as possible. Cultist Refuge is a larger sized dungeon filled with cultists and werewolves. It's got a decent sized mob count, but the density doesn't seem that good. Part 1 of this dungeon is filled with cultists and everything is really spread out. Part 2 is filled with mostly werewolves, and you should continue to expect a lot of downtime running between the groups of mobs. In part 2 of the map, you'll see random werewolves stuck inside cages. The cages are not breakable with your attacks, but if you decide to open them, the werewolves stuck inside will become your enemy. Although I kill all the mobs in this dungeon, items and sigil drop rate seems very low on the runs I did on this dungeon. Next, we have Kor Dragan Barracks. The number of elites in this dungeon is absolutely insane. Probably the most I've seen in any dungeon so far in the 3 territories I've reviewed. Due to the size of this dungeon, leveling up your glyphs might not be such a smooth run, but this dungeon could potentially pass for 5 stars for power leveling up your characters. Every blood boil spawns you come across in the part 2 objectives will spawn additional mobs as well. Just make sure you watch out for your positioning with the hollow captains and know that the revenants can do a lot of damage from time to time. Lost Archives is a dungeon that reminds me of the Dark Ravines in a way that Dark Ravines is like an evil brother to this dungeon. You still find demons and ghosts in this dungeon, except that they're blue instead of red. Also, there's a similar objectives as part 2 of this dungeon and it's always split on opposite direction. For the same reasons as the red demons, be sure to prioritize in killing the lunatics and the shamans first. Definitely recommend it for you to run it with a friend if you're leveling up your glyphs. Maulwood is a small sized dungeon with objectives that are very easy to complete. For a dungeon this size, I gave it 4 stars for both mob count and mob density, but it does feel like it's a hit or miss depending on the run you get into. Definitely one of the best dungeons to run for glyph leveling though. Zenith is a large-sized dungeon filled with skeletons, zombies, and vampires. Part 1 of this dungeon is pretty straightforward, but part 2 requires a whole lot of backtracking if you're running this solo. Of all the runs I had, the overall mob count and mob density felt great, but as a barbarian, once you start hitting the higher tiers like 70s, the boss will start to become harder to kill and it will require you to understand the mechanics in order for you to defeat them. Be sure to prioritize the skeleton corpse bow as they can one-shot you, and for the boss fight, make sure you're always running around and dodging his grab attack. You'll see a charging animation of him raising up his hand slightly behind his head, so be prepared to dodge out of it. For the bonus clip today, I decided to show you my tier 64 boss fight in Zenith. The run was going smoothly until the boss fight. There were a few times I got one shot because I didn't dodge out of his mechanics, and one time I got killed by the lightning storm affects. I hope you enjoyed my Nightmare series and that I was able to provide some useful information regarding these Nightmare dungeons in Diablo 4. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and continue to enjoy all the games you guys love to play as well as all the things you guys love to do. Good luck in getting some of those biz drops in your grind, and until next time, iV, we out.